the limits that have been imposed on Trump's speech in the coming, weeks, months, years, Trump bail stipulations include no direct or indirect threat of any nature against co-defendants, witnesses, including unindicted co-conspirators, any victim, the community, or any property in the community. And that includes, but is not limited to, posts on social media, reposts of posts made by another individual on social media, and speech, presumably. It seems almost impossible that he's going to abide this.
That's my first instinct. I mean, I'm of two minds on this. At one level, I think that he's likely to just test and test and test and see what he can get away with. And what are you going to do? Throw me in jail? Like, exactly. Go ahead. Come on. What? You're going to throw me in jail? Fulton County Judge Tanya Chutkan, whoever. The other mind I have is that, like, he has throughout his life displayed an uncanny ability of, like, walking up to the line and, like, softly transgressing it in a plausibly deniable way. And I think that we will see a lot of flirting with the boundaries. And I think it's going to be like a real test of these judges and the system as a whole, the degree to which what they're gonna like not take any messing around with this.
The community, though, I mean, Trump has spent, Laura, the last few days just on a tirade against Atlanta, its crime rate. I won't use his words to describe the city, but that absolutely intersects with one of the provisions he is not supposed to violate. And I wonder, the judge in this case, I believe his name is Scott McAfee. He's 34 years old.
Exactly. Been on the bench for a minute.
He's literally appointed, sworn in on February 1st. Yeah. He is the newest of 19 judges at Fulton County Superior Court. I mean, what do we know about him, and what do we think about his ability to manage what is going to be a raucous case?
We don't know much about him because he hasn't been on the bench that long. He certainly has never had a case this big. Even in his own practice as a former prosecutor, he's never had to do something like this. And as Chris said, I think that what we're seeing, this entire display, not just today, but all four of these cases, it's a stress test. It's a stress test of the system. And there's this weird duality when it comes to the former president for which processes are just like every other defendant and which ones sort of veer off course. Like the mugshot today is the first time he actually had to go through the process just like everybody else. And then he has these other bail conditions, which are like very bizarre, like not being able to post what somebody else has posted. Like, that's not a normal bail condition,
right. Yes.
But it is a particular one that judges feel is necessary and the prosecutors feel is necessary given his propensity and what he's done in past cases. And so it's just remarkable to me to just sort of think about what has been sort of off the charts bonkers in terms of this case and four cases being different, and what is. There is something just striking about having the former president have to go in a place that's being investigated by the Justice Department, a place that is infected with bed bugs, right?
Yeah.
What is more sort of humbling than that, or at least should be for anybody who doesn't want to be there?
For a man who used to live in Trump Tower and the White House.
Yeah.
Or still does in some cases, not the White House, though. Barb, when we talk about the stress test, it seems like a lot of it is left to the discretion of prosecutors in terms of what they're going to complain about, and the judges and how they rule on a defendant violating the terms of bail. By virtue of the fact that Trump was fingerprinted and mugshotted in a way that he has not been in any of these other criminal indictments, should we infer anything about the way Georgia's going to deal with this defendant? Is it going to be a tougher line they toe, or is it premature to suppose anything based on the processing thus far?
Well, on the one hand, I don't want to make any assumptions just based on one small data point. But, if you are to generalize in big terms, federal court is the very polite, dainty kind of a place. The federal prisons are very clean. They're very tidy. Sometimes they call the prisons club fed because, they're camp settings and very nice. State court is a different story. State court deals with a lot of violent crime, street crime, and treats people like they are criminals in the worst sense of that word, dehumanizes people, sometimes treats people like animals. They should not be treated that way. And yet that is sometimes the way the world is seen in the lens of state court because they deal with such difficult circumstances of humanity. And so to that extent, I think it might be a little more of a rough and tumble world in state court. They don't put up with a lot of nonsense in state court. And so I think that there is a possibility that we may see Fani Willis take a tough line and the judge take a tough line. And I'll tell you what, the thing I really surprised me and I appreciated was the strategic decision by Fani Willis to say, I've issued arrest warrants, but I'm going to give you a little courtesy. If you show up within the next 2 weeks, I won't execute them. You can come in and turn yourself in. That was such a smart move. And I'll tell you what, we don't do it in federal court. We call and say, hello, would it be convenient for you to bring your client in sometime in the next few days? And we let them call the shots. This was a very shrewd move, I think, because she correctly anticipated that either Trump or some of these other defendants would try to jerk her around and slow things down, just as we saw Mark Meadows do and Jeff Clark do. And the judge there wouldn't have any of it. So it may be that we see this tougher stance in state court than we have seen to date in federal court.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Fani Willis is going to let Trump slide on stuff, but that does beg the question, what's the punishment?